It's been a rough quarter for a lot of tech names, and well, CrowdStrike appears to be no exception to that rule. Despite posting record quarterly revenues, investors don't seem satisfied with the cybersecurity company's third quarter results, with the equity down by 5% at the time of recording. Guys, we're talking CrowdStrike, we're talking Q3 earnings, we're going to get into what went wrong. Let's dive in. Let's start off with the high level. The third quarter was a milestone quarter for CrowdStrike, who posted total revenue of $1.01 billion. It was the first time the company has crossed the billion-dollar mark for a single quarter. Revenue jumped 29% on a year-over-year basis, up from $786 million last year. Analysts, meanwhile, had called for top-line revenue of just $983 million. The improvement notably comes despite the July 19th incident when a faulty update to CrowdStrike security software caused the largest outage in the history of information technology, with worldwide damages estimated to be in excess of $10 billion. It was such a shit show that it even has its own Wikipedia page. Despite the revenue growth, on a GAAP basis, CrowdStrike reported a loss from operations of $56 million, compared to an income of $3.2 in the year-ago period. On a non-GAAP basis, however, income from operations totaled $195 million versus $176 in the third quarter of 2023. CrowdStrike posted a GAAP net loss of $16.8 million, or 7 cents per share for the quarter, as compared to net income of $26.7 million, or 11 cents per share in the year-ago period. On a non-GAAP basis, net income totaled $234 million, or 93 cents per share, versus $199 million, or 82 cents per share last year. The difference is largely attributed to $209 million in stock-based compensation issued during the second quarter, a 31% jump on a year-over-year basis. Non-GAAP EPS did, however, beat estimates, with analyst consensus estimates calling for net income of 81 cents a share. Because who needs accounting standards anyways, am I right? Net cash generated from operations totaled $326 million, a 19% increase on a year-over-year basis from $274 million last year. Free cash flow, however, was down 3.6%, from $239 million down to $231. CrowdStrike ended the quarter with $4.3 billion in cash versus $4 billion at the end of the second quarter. As we previously mentioned, the company in the third quarter crossed the billion-dollar revenue mark for a single quarter. Perhaps more significantly here, the company has hit $4 billion in annual recurring revenue with that achievement. Annual recurring revenue grew 27% to hit $4 billion in the third quarter, of which $153 million is said to be net new ARR added during the quarter. As founder and CEO George Kurtz highlighted in the earnings release, CrowdStrike is the only pure-play cybersecurity software company to hit this milestone. The top-line revenue figure, meanwhile, can be broken down into two segments: subscription revenue and professional services. Subscription revenue, which makes up the bulk of total revenue at $963 million, grew 31% on a year-over-year basis, up from $734 million last year, while gross retention rates sat at 97%. Gross margins for the segment was flat at 78% on a GAAP basis, while non-GAAP margins for the subscription segment was flat at 80%. Professional services, however, declined 9.7% from $53 million down to 47%. Gross margins dropped even more dramatically for the segment, falling from 33% in the year-ago period to 18% in the current quarter. We should also highlight here the aforementioned July 19th incident. That failed software update has proven to be expensive for the company, with the third quarter seeing $34 million in related costs. All right, let's get out of the weeds here and take a look at the outlook. Looking forward, CrowdStrike has provided us with some pretty precise guidance for their fiscal fourth quarter of 2025, which is the period ended January 31st, 2025. Total revenue for the quarter is slated to be just over $1 billion, with non-GAAP income from operations of $184 to $189 million. Non-GAAP net income between $211 and $216 million, and non-GAAP EPS of 84 to 86 cents a share. For the full fiscal year, total revenue is anticipated to be around $3.9 billion, with non-GAAP income from operations of between $804 and $809 million, non-GAAP net income between $938 and $943 million, and non-GAAP EPS of $3.74 to $3.76 a share. And guys, I gotta say, this is pretty exact guidance. For all the different companies we take a look at, CrowdStrike's they're not giving much of a wide range here for their guidance. I gotta say that. So how did investors respond? Well, the equity, as we said, is down 5% as of the time of recording, but aside from that, investors seem quite happy with the results. Shay here says it's the only company in the world that can halt global operations and still come out on top. Well, Brad Freeman was impressed with their ability to turn things around. But before we get too rosy on the matter, Ivana here says that signs of the impact are starting to hit, including some renewals that won't be exercised and sales cycles extending. Others, meanwhile, are positive, but concerned that certain people are positive on the name. And of course, there's always at least one investor that blames the dip on market voodoo over anything else. Analysts comparatively are extremely bullish on the results, with the vast majority raising price targets. All right, folks, let's wrap it up. To CrowdStrike's credit, they beat analyst expectations and crossed a major quarterly revenue milestone. And they also seem to have bounced back from what could have been a disastrous event with the July 19th incident. To have both of these events in the same quarter likely speaks volumes to the resilience of their product. But like all names that move on growth prospects, eventually that growth will slow. While that July incident may be part of the reason for slowing growth, the reality is that there is a time limit on any company's growth prospects, and growth seems to be slowing here. So what that does to CrowdStrike's multiple is anyone's guess, but the sell-off here isn't exactly surprising.